Welcome back to Unfiltered, Unspoken podcast, where we told you we're going to continue to share life experiences. We have another amazing guest on here, JS Russell. He's going to tell you some of his testimony. I'm going to let him come up and introduce himself, and then, as you know, we're going to get right on into it. Welcome. Should I call you JS or your other name?
You can call me by my regular name, but
Okay.
that's the handle. It sound good. I'm gonna tell you the story behind that though, right? So
Okay, all
look,
right. So tell us the story behind it, and then come in and introduce yourself.
so I'm writing these poetry books while I'm in the joint, and I'm thinking like, who's gonna buy a book? I'm talking about what white people gonna buy a book by
Uh-huh.
somebody named Jamar Russell. So I did the J.S. Russell because thought it was a little bit more author friendly, more friendly as far as the consumers. And the fact of the matter is, I was more so trying to find advocacy, and I came across a brother that had some advocates because he was on death row, and I needed to attract advocacy. I didn't have, uh, I wasn't on death row, but I had a virtual life sentence. And for anybody that doesn't know what a virtual life sentence is those numbers that basically mean you're gonna be in prison for life. So I'm J.S. Russell, the freedom poet, brand writing freedom, author, father, advocate, community developer, mentor, and I'm pretty much here right now living in my purpose, and that's to lower recidivism and help the government agencies do that by giving my experiences and the work and workbooks and literature that I have to offer to affect that.
Okay, what a good way to start. And you added the introduction in there, so we might as well get right on into it. Hopefully, City Sid will come over on later. If not, we're gonna keep pushing in her presence. We love you, Sid. So I'm gonna kick off the first question. Let's start. Can we start back? Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing? And then we'll go right into it.
Sure. So I'm my mother's only, right? And first it was pretty much all of us in the house. When I say all of us, it was me, mom's, my aunt Kathy, would eventually been my three cousins, Chantel, Kanisha, Christine, in that order, all 2 years separate. You know what I'm saying? Difference in age. Then, of course, my grandmother, my aunt Marcia. So grew up a bunch of, amongst women. Father wasn't around. Was in Camden, New Jersey, which I intended to travel to later to visit family. So uptown until, eventually we got our own spot out chilling. That's in Hyattsville, Maryland. Did well in school, but it's just still this. We talking about '90s, that crack epidemic. I remember that city under siege on the news. Different things that was going on in the area, and that whole little wave of things. You gotta think, you know, birth of gangster music came around in the era in which I was born. That whole influence in that culture, and also my summers I spent in Camden, New Jersey, or Sicklerville, being exposed also to that. So, for those that don't know, in the 90s, between DC, the surrounding areas, and definitely Camden, it was definitely something different. I'm not going to say like I witnessed the worst parts of it because it was always something different, but, you know, it was my own experience. And I guess more so, whatever questions you may have may allow me to get deeper into that, but that's pretty much what it was.
Okay, and I'm gonna get deeper in into it.
Hmm.
So I want to ask, you grew up in a wonderful lifestyle with some wonderful women, despite your dad wasn't in your life, he was a distance away. Did that have any effect on you as a child, as a young male with a household full of women?
I'm gonna tell you one of the things when you said as far as my dad's not being around. I always remembered and my mother reflects on this and she brings it to my attention. I knew one time I was like, yeah, I wanted to go up with my dad. I want to go up with my dad. I mean, and she felt a certain way about it. But I go up to Jersey to visit, and it wasn't what I thought. Pops was pretty much chasing, so um, he had. And when I learned later on, he had his battles with addiction. So it was like when I went up there, it was like I'm cool on that. I had cousins and other families on there, but I knew as far as what I thought that relationship could or whatever might have been in my head at the time, that wasn't that. So I just went with it. As far as the women in my family, like I said, man, it was still that era. So there's certain things that I've witnessed with different stuff, whether it's been with aunts or mother's boyfriends or their boyfriends and stuff that just was like it was a part of that time. And you never think of this stuff as anything when you're young. It just is. You know what I'm saying? You reflect on it as an adult, like, oh, okay, that's what that was about. That's what's going on. And drugs was very much a part of a lot of stuff, not necessarily with my mother, just, but still with other stuff that was going on around.
Okay, are you comfortable with talking about some of the other stuff that was going on around? We just want to see if we give the audience just a little bit more, because someone is probably going through the same situation that you went through as a child, and your testimony will be able to help them.
Well, the perspective as a child, I mean, it's more so speculation, because all right, I would hear about stuff about with my grandmother's jewelry or certain stuff not being around because of a aunt or so. I don't know that to be true. I just heard about it. I had friends who mothers was on it, and what I mean on it, addicted to crack cocaine. I've witnessed times when my father was crazy when I was up in Jersey, dealing with certain stuff, dealing with my grandmother, and it might not just been him. My grandmother in Jersey used to have to really lock her room. So you talking about uh, an era where the addiction was definitely causing people to steal or do other stuff or sell whatever they was doing, what I'm saying, in order to get a high. So there was that. Couple doors down, even the dude that was supposedly, wherever level he was in the game, getting himself murdered. Learning about what my father used to do, what I'm saying, as far as hustling, uncle, what I'm saying, whoever else, just kind of hearing the stories. But like I said, a lot of that stuff is speculation. The rest of it is what you actually see in the environment, what I see in the environment. And, it's just that the times, the culture, the music, the feel, the environment is what I mean.
You mentioned that you know, okay, so when you went to Jersey, your grandmother had to lock her room. Um, did you feel safe in the home? Did she put you in a room with her? Because if she didn't feel safe, like what was the environment for you?
I was so young that I ain't even really pay too much attention to it. I'm thinking nanny crazy, but I'm young. Like all of that was fun for me as a kid. It wasn't until later on that when I would visit that I would see the environment for what it was. And then I'm be honest, like certain times I would go up to visit Camden after 3 days, it'd be like it's time to go because it's depressing. But as a kid, I'm not really paying that as much attention. I'm just like, all right, well, this is what's going on. She want to keep her stuff the way it is. It's not really getting in my, you know what I'm saying, process. I'm not really processing it at the time that It's like the family members though that she might want to help out is still the family members that might be trying to steal from because they might be trying to do some stuff. But like I said, I can't say that that's what it was because I didn't see it myself. It's speculation, but there's other people that deal with that type of stuff that they know that that's what's going on, and that would be the conclusion that I draw from it. But you know, Nanny's still around. She's 90 plus years old, living. Some people not. Like I said, I done lost my father while I was in. He battled with his addiction. Even before going in, my Aunt Teresa died. My Aunt Rhonda died of, I mean, my cousin Rhonda died of overdose. My cousin Lamont, he done got shot up by the police, but he was high off PCP. That's just up in Jersey. You know what I'm saying? So it's all of those things that you deal with or people deal with when you talking about being in places that deal with high crime or poverty. There's a lot of leaning on drug addiction to or drug usage to escape the situations.
So, can you tell us a little bit about you and your dad's relationship? Like when you went up, did he spend time with you? What kind of if he was a role model of any sort, or if he wasn't a role model?
My father was crazy, man, but I'm crazy like him a little bit to an extent. Um, what's crazy is we look a lot alike. Loud country nigga named Willie Clyde, but basically spent most of his life in Camden. Veteran of the Air Force, did what he did, you know what I'm saying? And I guess it's also of the times because I guess in that area in which he was, it may not have been a lot of things offered to black people, but he was in the trade. When I say trade, dealing with the drugs and stuff like that, live life. And the crazy thing about it is, I always would tell people like the man that my mother fell in love with, I'd never met. You know what I'm saying? Like there would be a lot of people that say this and that and stuff, and I can see that because everybody loved him. Everybody out here cuss people out and stuff like that. And they just like, oh, Clyde just crazy. But we had a decent relationship, even though there was distance, because of course I would go up there. And then also my father is responsible for me learning the pill game. And it's not like it was something that he encouraged. It just so happened to be one time he came out the county and I'm coming up to visit because I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm seeing him and he tells me, look, there's some people that's gonna come through. This is that, this is that, this goes for that, da 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 da. And I'm seeing the flow that comes through and I'm like, well, I know what I need to do. Forget crack. I need to deal with this stuff. And so after a while, once I was able to develop that clientele in Maryland, that's what I was dealing with. But one of the things for anybody that may be watching this, Camden, Baltimore, and there may be a lot of other cities like that, dope cities where opioids are high, addiction is high, poverty is high. There's certain areas, certain zones. So I'm not making an excuse for anything. I'm just telling my experience. And so what I've witnessed is that's kind of what was going on in that area.
Okay. So before your dad introduced you to the pill game, was he clean or did he have an addiction?
Throughout my childhood, there would be times where he might get arrested. We'd go back and forth in letters. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes the letters have fell off, and that'll be the time where he come home. Be home, and he'll be clean for a little while, and then, it's back to that. So at that particular time right then, I can't remember whether he was, most likely he might have been healthy, but I can't really say for sure, because a lot of times I'm not around long enough. I'm coming up there for a brief period of time, dealing with my peoples, getting drunk and high myself. So, you know, you gotta turn your mic on.
I did. I be muting it because I don't want nothing in the background.
Yeah.
So you said through this, you were getting drunk and high as well. Can you tell us how old you started drinking, or the drug of the getting high, and can you tell us the drug of your choice, or different kind of drugs that you may have?
I give you a rundown of all that. It's not necessarily like you say a drug of choice, it'd probably be alcohol. It's
Okay.
socially acceptable, something like that. When I started drinking, I can't really say for sure when it became a regular type thing, but it's a story that me and my mother and people share of one time. All right, so once upon a time, right, for people, then this tells you. Remember when Cisco? I mean, not the Cisco's, but the Mystics came out. So Mystics and stuff like that
Yes.
was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my mother's boyfriend, he came home around this time. He had a pitch Cisco that very much looked like a Mystic. So he was giving me that. And I'm sipping it because, it tasted good. And that was one of the things when I was very young. You know what I'm saying? And that was probably like the first time I could remember getting drunk. Um, Times after that, it was whether I was following behind, a cousin, or it was just something that was around, whatever. But I could tell you the time that I really started looking for it myself was around 14. Whole bunch of those pink and yellow slips on the door, which led to a eventual eviction. I'm thankful that it wasn't to where we had ourselves set out, but we could go ahead and pack it ourselves. But I used to be at the bus stop with the seniors early in the morning, either drinking what they was drinking, smoking what they was smoking, you know what I'm saying, more so to escape what I felt I was going through.
Okay. So what alcohol? So were you um your smoke, when you say smoking, are you saying smoking weed or popping pills, PCP?
So we talking about 99, 2000. It was marijuana then, drinking. A lot of stuff progressed to other things later on in life. Before I actually went in for this situation, my drug of choice was ecstasy and alcohol. But if you want to do a rundown of everything that I done done.
Yeah, I would like, yeah, just to be
Yeah,
transparent.
you get the alcohol, ecstasy, marijuana, PCP, powder, cocaine, Percocets, Xanax, codeine, you know, and if something that I'm missing, I just can't recall it right now. But yeah, like that was pretty much a lot of different little things I either experimented with or dealt with at some point in time.
Wow. And thank you for your transparency
Hmm.
and being honest. I want to ask through the drugs, because each of them have a different effect. which which drug do you feel as though had you more out there, or had you doing things that, I mean, just took you to another level?
Well, the thing that which I would step away from, which I didn't deal with, and I'm glad it didn't play on me, was that PCP, because of course you lose control. Um, when I was younger, first starting out with it, the motor functions and stuff like that, it seemed a little fun until like later on it wasn't. So, like I say, I'm glad it didn't play on me because I done seen people like really get lost and caught up, dealing with that. Um, and that's one of them things I thank God for. The rest of it, like I said, the other thing that I think that really takes or has taken me. Alcohol, like, because though I said about ecstasy being the drug of choice, like, always was loving and, you know, in a euphoric state. But, it's something about the alcohol. If certain things ain't in right and the conditions ain't right, maybe angry or some other stuff. Once I started having to take urines, I kind of like fell back from that. The perks and oxys, I'm going, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't do the oxys, but with the perks, I'm gonna tell you and be honest, it felt so good. I was scared of it, and I was making too much money with them opioids to let myself get caught up in that. You know what I'm saying? The powder thing, it was cool. It gave me a up like the ecstasy did, but just too much maintenance. Gotta worry about a drain, gotta worry about whether my nose presentable, and then it's just not something that's susceptible. Like, so not me.
So how hard was it to walk away from saying I'm not going to do this? Because a lot of people, they get addicted, they can't walk away. So what helped you walk away? Because maybe you can help someone else that's watching this.
But when you in prison, I mean, there's other things that you can get, but first of all, like, nothing that I wanted to do was in there. Eventually, yeah, the wine, and I could deal with the alcohol, but like, you don't want to be high off ecstasy in prison. Not me, because most of the time when I was popping a pill, I wanted it to end in sex, and like, it just wasn't going down like that for me in the joint. So it's like, nah, I'm good. And then on top of that, like, for real, Um, I had made a decision in the county jail once I started evaluating my surroundings and felt that I was so much better than that situation that it was like, man, I was done with the rest of that stuff in the streets. Like, I'm good on it.
So are you able to get access to all of those drugs in prison, or are there select drugs you're able to get access to?
I mean, I'm sure people can. I mean, if you want to. Um, while I was in, there was certain things that was prevalent, and if we were talking about addicts and criminals and stuff, if they want to do whatever they want to do, they're going to figure out a way. I was trying to figure a way to get out. So my energy was directed towards something else.
Okay. How many times have you? I want to jump here because I'm gonna kind of jump back and forth just a little bit. How many times have you been incarcerated?
Mm, I want to say I was over DC jail for a little bit in '06 for a violation. Um, in PG County for a little bit around that time or before or after that time for a warrant, which was like maybe it was 2 weeks. Then I went in for trying to get some phones into Patuxent for about 3 months before this situation. And then it was the larger, I'm saying, imprisonment for, the murder charge.
Okay, and we're gonna get into that in a few. I want to hit a few more things before I get there. So your dad, you learned how to. He pretty much prepped you to sell pills, which is
No, but kind of, sort of, not really.
not
Because I mean, somebody could have just been like, "Oh, okay," and then never deal with it. But for me, I'm just trying to get me some money,
really.
and that seemed like it was a far better way of getting money than what I was doing.
Okay, because he was getting money from it too, right?
He was doing whatever he was doing. I don't know. I wasn't around. He was in Jersey. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
okay,
Well, I was in Maryland here in Jersey. I don't know what his money was like.
okay, okay. So getting into selling pills, how did that start, and how did that? No, how did that start? I'm gonna start right there.
So when I seen that it was profitable, first of all, this is my background. I started in weed. I'm saying graduated to crack. Of course, that's a smaller package that, of course, brings higher profit. So when discovering this thing with these pills, which at 80 milligram um, oxycontin, I was selling for $50. That's a smaller package at a higher, I'm saying, profit. Whether it was a 10 milligram for $10 or 30 for 20, whatever it was just like packaging this and transporting this at a higher rate was better than dealing with a larger package that may smell more did for cheaper, I'm saying, for a smaller profit. Though I still um hustled in marijuana, when it very much more profitable dealing with the exotic once I ventured into that. But it just made sense. And what I learned, because before that I wasn't dealing with opioids, um, though crack is highly addictive, which I didn't like about the crack clientele is that they would put me in jeopardy. Some have even told on me. I've had buy and bust setups or, warrants because of that. The opioid clientele was different. That's when I started dealing more with my white clientele, people that was more dependent on it, people that needed it, and also people that weren't trying to put me in jeopardy. So it just made more sense. And the whole thing about it is I was dealing, this was going or during the midst of the recession. I came from getting fired from a job that I wasn't making much money off of. So I was motivated to get more money. And it was a time of pain, depression, and a lot of stuff. So when people in pain, they looking for relief.
So while selling pills, were you doing pills at the same time, or did you keep that separate?
Every once in a while, I might pop what we call a banana, which is a 10 milligram perk, throw up because the opioid get rejected and be floating for a little bit. But like I said, I was making too much money with it to want to develop an addiction to it. For me, I was getting maybe I started getting the pills by at 1,000 of them, then slowed down to like 500. But that was my drug of choice, and it was less of a cost to me because I didn't have to take as much. Have a longer high, euphoric high. I mean, yeah, euphoric, and more so did that on the weekends. I had to balance a hustle work life fun time so that I wouldn't get jammed up with the police because I do have a record of DUIs or DWIs because of trying to mix the two sometimes.
Okay. So how did you balance that? Because they say most people that do a drug get addicted.
Well, what I learned is I had to drink or do whatever partying I was going to do at nighttime and hustle during the daytime. For me, it was less likely. Um, it was more easier to navigate the streets and do everything and hustle during the daytime than the nighttime. Of course, you might hear about people being out all night, but we talking about me. I was in Laurel. I wasn't in the city, so there's less cars on the road. More cars going back and forth, especially on main roads. Then the police have become hip to that. They pull you over. Had to eliminate myself from that. And if I am drinking or stuff like that, people tend to do that at nighttime socially at whatever functions, bars, clubs, whatever. So I just separated the two. And whoever needed to see me, they had to see me before the sun went down or 5 o'clock or whatever it is. I made them transactions and separated that.
Okay. So you were smart.
You know, still stupid. Know what I'm saying?
Stupid, but I'm
It's
not saying smart as the sense.
strategic, strategic, but no, I still got, made a lot of dumb mistakes. um, in the trade and just thinking that I could outsmart things.
Hmm. And while we're here, what advice would you give to a younger person that's thinking about stepping in and selling any form of narcotics, just to so that they would stop and not do it?
You want some money for real, think long term. And also that there's nothing that you can do, nothing that you need to do with narcotics that you can't do right now with like Amazon, whatever their business is online, affiliate marketing, influencing, building up stuff, Shopify, Printify. You can figure out whatever you want to do and be an entrepreneur. Just learning from YouTube and learning from these coaches once they're, you know what I'm saying, certified. Like there's no more of the day where you just have to get the work permit. You do the work permit if you want to go ahead and get a job at McDonald's and stuff. But if you want to be an entrepreneur and change some, you know what I'm saying, change your life, change the life of your family, you start your business. You go ahead and figure out exactly how to build on that business, you know, and then continue to pursue that. That's what I encourage the young folks that I mentor. Like, there's nothing that can stop you. Like, people get paid for gaming, just streaming. And then the rest of it is just trial and error and figuring out how to build from there. There's no reason that you would have to go out there and sell narcotics unless you just want to be that dumbass to do the same shit that got a lot of us else, you know what I'm saying, a lot of other people locked up, late, addicted, murdered, incarcerated, you know. I feel like that day should be done soon, you know.
So I want to ask you before I proceed, like to the next question. Do you feel as though, coming from a mother that pretty much raised you, do you feel as though you put her through a lot, going through your cycles of being in and out of jail? Because moms are usually pretty much supportive to their sons, and you're only child.
Hmm.
So do you sometimes you think about the effect that you put on your mom going through your trials and tribulations?
Sure, I did. I mean, but put ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Put me through some stuff too. Like, it just is what it is. You come through life, you don't get a guidebook of this is how you're supposed to challenge, I mean, or parent this child, you know, or whatever. She doesn't like to hear about me saying that we went through a level of poverty. But the fact of the matter is, when you don't have a home, that's kind of what it is. I don't care if we have a place to stay or sleep. You know what I'm saying? You lose your stuff. You know what I'm saying? You lose anything. There's a level of that. So for a child, it's not something that you definitely have an understanding. And just saying that it's going to be all right is not going to be enough when the feelings are different, you know? So I look at my situation and I understand how I feel. I don't want to minimize or to make it bigger than what it is because I know there's people that went through worse. But regardless, it's just that. Like, sure, she probably had gone through some stuff, but she hadn't parented a son before. Like, I was the first male in like 13, 14 years in the family. Like, who was going to say was what? And for the most part, I was an honor roll student. I just wish I had the guidance as to how to flourish further in that and use, you know, my intelligence to do more. But again, we're talking about people that didn't know what they was going to deal with. In my case, my mother, she felt like she dealt the best that she could, but it just wasn't what was necessary to make that young man avoid this life. However, that young man is now me, and I'm doing some things right now to hopefully and effectively better some other young men's lives.
I love it. Do you think that if you would have had the right male role models in your life, that things would have been different? Because I know even as me, I can speak as a mom. I've dated. I put the wrong influence in front of my children. Do you think some of the male role models in your life were the wrong influence? I mean, just in the situation is when your mother's friend came out of jail, he had you drinking. Like, did your mother even know about that? Like,
Yeah, she learned because I told on her. He pumped me for some information. So it's always a funny little story. But that's one of them things where it seemed like it's stories we laugh about, but it's stuff that still shouldn't be. No, a young person shouldn't be drinking or something like that. However, who could say? Because the dude in itself was messed up. Why would he do that? So it's life. This is what I'm learning. It's life. Like you never know the individuals that you come across. So um, I feel like depending on what was happening. Like I had a great friend and good mentor, Mr. Belton, Howard Belton, and he was kind of given to me by the church to be a mentor. Still, there was a big age disconnect, but I appreciate him for just the stuff that he was showing. I wasn't able to grasp it at the time, but it was nice. So it was more so individuals' ability to communicate and connect with the young people. And those are the things that I've been able to analyze to try to figure out how I can better do this with the young people that I come across. So I had my uncle Cecil that I lived with um, while I was 15, and he was the example of a man that worked and did what he needed to do to provide for his family. Still, it was certain things that was lacking in other areas. Um, Maybe a lack of education. I mean, not a lack of education on his part, but giving me the education that I need. So I still a believer that it takes a village, but it definitely takes the presence of more men. In that time, in that era, with people being on it or being hustlers or being whatever it was an absence of that. One of the things that I appreciate about now with the guys that's coming home, whether it's through the reentry program or stuff like that, you've been people that's coming home from prison that been around men and there's a higher standard. So that's what's going to make a difference. I don't know what effect it might have made for me, but I like to think that if I had better resources and better access to people as to know how, then of course I would have been far a lot further in life.
thank you for being honest. So I want to jump into because you've had then you had a few incarcerations, overcame short term. So now, going through your trials and tribulations, we've talked, and if you could see the intro that came through, you were serving a life sentence, all but it was supposed to be 50 years, right? And you served 13 years. Can we just talk about, I don't want to get like completely into it, but can we talk about what led up to this incarceration?
So what led up to this incarceration, we talked about me being in the drug trade. Um, During that recession, when I was selling cars, I wasn't getting no money. I was at 100% commission, and not making any car sales except for when tax time came around. So with just having a draw check, it was like real rough. So when I got fired, it was like, all right, I'm gonna go for what I know. Matter of fact, I'm gonna share something with you. You mind if I share some poetry that give you an example of that environment, that mind state that I was in?
Spit it. Let's go. So we about to get some real poetry live, and then we're gonna go into talking a little bit about the situation.
All right, so this is titled Caution, September 19, 2020. Always knew they were wolves for real. Always knew that in these streets I could be killed. That's no matter if I was in them. That's no matter if I was in them or not. Could be because I was on the wrong block. Could be because I came across the wrong cop. I did my best to move cautious. Some niggas talk that never scared shit. Shit. I felt the threat. Anxiety had me feeling nauseous, not knowing what I would do yet, but I knew Elaine wouldn't experience no losses. They said the natural response of fight or flight. I had to choose my battles. I ain't ashamed to say that I ducked some shit. Still, I stand on the fact that I never tattled. I used to be high, paranoid, riding around the complex to see if somebody was following me. I hated that the front of my apartment building was glass. A nigga could see my apartment and squat on me. I got back from the Bahamas expecting a burglary. These young niggas used to ask me for a lick, but that wasn't my shit. I respond, I'm the lick. Try me and see what you get. I kept one in the head. There was no cock in my shit. I refused to return to living like that. Stress high, Grey Goose and ecstasy, stayed high. That's how I dealt with the madness. After a day of moving small packages, buying and selling, wanting to be more than a convicted felon. UPS wouldn't even hire me and help me with my education. Trying to sell cars at 100% commission, entering the recession, forced me into a familiar vocation. I slid back, relapsed. I just remember the swaggy nigga in DC jail talking about riding around with an eighth and a 380. I figured I had to do it like that. I remember Rex saying he had 20K at 18. I had to get it like that. The woman I bought my 300M from said she needed a 10,000 cushion. I needed it like that. Unemployment, taxes, stimulus package, Percocets, Oxy, weed, water, and crack got me my stacks. For a minute, I felt like I was up until it all went bad. People I had around had people they had around. I was up, they were down, and that's how it all went down. I've been down for 10 years now, a decade analyzing and correcting my mistakes, sufficient time to retrace my steps and contemplate everything I hate, time enough to practice habits that'll put me in another place. I always knew there was wolves. Now I'm going to stay my ass out of the woods. I'm preparing for greener pastures where it's all good. No more anxiety, stress, and fear. I wonder if it was meant for me to be here while others like me are out there being gunned down by the wolves.
Whoa, that's deep. That's deep. So, you do a lot of poetry too about your life and stuff, right?
Well, all of that stuff, I wrote a good significant amount of that while I was in. There was a reflection of my life.
Okay, that's deep. That's deep. Deep.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we got the poetry just to kind of give some outline. Can we talk a little bit about what led up to this large sentence?
Yeah, so we talking about that mind state where I was paranoid. It may have not been a lot of money for people, but I had probably a little bit over 20,000, a lot of drugs, a lot of guns. For me anyway, I had more than five of them, one of them including an assault rifle, a Tech 9 at the time, and that was for protection. Um, Moving the way that I was at different times, getting drugs. I was living better than a lot of other people and still not knowing what to do. So, of course, I couldn't wrap my mind around it at the age of 24, 25. So, at the situation that led up to it, a friend of mine's had a birthday party. Went to the strip club for Wagos, threw a whole lot of money in that joint. Stuff that I never seen before. I've never seen until they start doing videos about it later about people getting a plastic bag and picking up money. And I didn't consider that I threw that much, but it seemed like a lot when it comes in ones. But anyhow, following that, of course, that was something was probably talked about by the friend that I was there. The dude did end up being a victim. He we were in a situation Will Mason in a bar. Sometime after that, helping him get in and stuff like that. He wasn't what I considered an enemy, but he wasn't what I considered a friend because we were into different things. When I say we into different things, he stole, manipulated women, and Even one situation where I heard it punch one in the eye, which is not something that I deal with or respect. So we in different lanes. I hustle, I get money, and you know, trying to build on to something greater. So because of something that was said, there was a disagreement. The disagreement for me wasn't that big, and because I had my business to run, I wasn't trying to do any beefing, So try to apologize to the guy, but I was drunk and high that night. He was drunk. Some things that went into an altercation went from altercation to some disrespect on his part. The disrespect wasn't taken well on my part, and it became a homicide. So, um, the things that just led into it was just the wrong mindset, like having those guns, dealing with the anxiety, the paranoia, dealing with the law enforcement, dealing with the past traumas of being robbed, having a gun on my head, or brandished towards me, where I might have been feared of harm or um, threat to my life. So there's those things that played on me, as far as even people that I know setting me up. So it was just like when the disrespect came and them telling me to get my pistol was something where I snapped, because I know at that point, dealing with the life which I was dealing with, which we were dealing with, it was like either, you know, you handle it or you fool. So that's just what it was. I mean, at least that's what it was for me in that mind state then.
Do you think that he would have tried to retaliate on you if you didn't retaliate on him?
I think that if I ain't handled the situation, I probably would have been robbed, burglarized, or treated like a bitch in the street, which that tends to happen in certain things. Anytime you show weakness in those type of situations, that's what happens. So it's like it wasn't in that moment that I was thinking, let me not do that, but it was a point to anger. You know what I'm saying? It was just reached behind, but it was just like I said, I temporarily lost it. And he got the bad end of the stick.
Did that mentally affect you?
I'ma say the stuff that was worse than anything was hearing the mother cry when she had to identify seeing him, in the court. Um After the situation was over and I really looked at it, I was more like, damn, what have I done? Um if anything, I'm not gonna say it messed me up in a way where it traumatized me, but it definitely know what I don't want to deal with because of what has happened. Um, so very unfortunate.
Did you ever get a chance to apologize to the mom? Because I know we see a lot of like people have no remorse, or just certain situations, and the shoe, on your foot. Like you said, it hurt watching a mother cry. Were you able to apologize to that mother?
Yeah, to the family. There were children that I didn't know existed. And I remember his daughter at the modification just she read or said something that was beautiful. She was like in college at that time. It was just like, damn. Um, so I did apologize at my sentencing. I spoke at the modification, and there was also something that I wrote while I was incarcerated that I sent to the judge, even dealing with before the reentry situation, but even dealing with that. But I knew that those people, they didn't want me to be out at all, so it really didn't matter what I said or how I felt, because they were hurt by what I done. I took somebody that they loved away from them.
Thank you for your transparency and honesty. So we don't have a lot of time, but I want to go into now when reality set in, when you were locked up, and I guess after the sentence, what mentally was going through your head?
Well, after the sentence, I was a little bit relieved because it was different from when I actually got found guilty. The trial and sentencing is a different processes for anybody that doesn't know. When I found guilty, that of course, it shook me because I'm facing life plus, and then on top of that, the way that the trial scheduling was structured, it was like I was in trial for like a few days and then it was a break and then it came back on Monday. And I'm just thinking like, you gonna bring this jury back on a Monday? They already not getting paid. They not gonna remember everything in the momentum of how things were. So when things happened the way they did and my attorney didn't call one of the character witnesses that I wanted, and it just was like everything was bad. But I felt after the sentencing, though, I would receive grace because I got the life all suspended for 50 years. So now I'm working with a number. A number is better to work with than a life sentence. And that gave me hope even from with what the judge said is sentencing. And she was like, well, I don't feel that you don't have unredeemable qualities or something to that nature. So it was just like, all right, now I've retained all my rights. I show you that I do, you know. So, um, but already in the county jail, I had been working on these writings. I had been working on doing everything that I needed to do better in life because what I seen surrounding me in the county jail was just not it. And I was like, how did I allow myself to get there? And just made a decision to do something greater.
And while we're there, can you tell us like some of the struggles being incarcerated? Because maybe this will help people like not even like I want to just stay away from trouble.
All right, so first of all, um, you limited as to what you can do or what you can order. The commissary in itself is not the best, but that was some of the issues that I got to in the beginning. I'm ordering, you think you just go ahead order as much as you want, then the wolves gonna be looking at your ass. Then you gonna be, somebody that's targeted. And for me, coming from Laurel, I'm not from one of them places or clicked up with stuff like that. So I've had altercations, you know what I'm saying, with people. I've because of that or because of not knowing or whatever it is, coming in the situation green because I didn't have a juvenile record. So it's stressful already having to live off of what used to be less than my bar bill. You know what I'm saying? And then also people that put themselves in jeopardy. Like I'm really into my like, damn, you're gonna put your life in jeopardy trying to steal for this little bit of much. But you got people with that level of poverty and poverty thinking, and there's wolf pack mentality. And I had to learn, once you stand up and bust a couple people, I'm saying up, people will think twice before they test you. And I mean, I thank God that I learned that lesson before going into the state system because if I got into doing fighting or stabbing in the state system, then I may not be here before you today. But nah, like you have a lot of immature people not thinking, and then it comes into dealing with violence, distress, dealing with COs that's not respectful, dealing with a whole situation is just pretty much unbearable. So, um, showers flooding, getting fungus, and dealing with clothes that's not being properly washed, and all of the other stuff that comes along with it. The jail was, I guess, you weren't supposed to be there past 18 months. I did 32 and a half. There's other people that have done years longer than that. So, you know, think about the psychological effects and where honestly I thought being in solitary at sometimes was more peaceful than being on the tier in general population. It has all types of different things that bothers you, and I couldn't wait to get to the state once I was sentenced.
Okay. Ooh, thank you for being transparent about everything. So we're almost at time. I want to ask really quick, what advice would you give? Because we work with a lot of youth, and we're going to get into some of what you're doing at the end. What advice would you give a troubled child that is just following the streets, and that's all they know is the streets, and they don't have male role models? Some of them do, but what advice would you give them to help encourage them to stay out of the system, to change their lives, to do more impactful things with themselves, especially one that's going through like just stress and just so like chaotic stuff around them? Because some kids, that pain is to go out into the streets. That's what eases their pain.
Well, what I would tell them is like really pay attention. Like really start asking questions about the guys that's around in the streets. Ask about their fathers and their uncles or brothers and see where they at. Really take inventory how many dead, how many in prison, how many strung out on drugs, and see if that's where you want to be. Because if you want to go ahead and enter your life, like this is the result of that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the reality. But if you want something greater, you're gonna have to try something different and understand that certain things just take time. Change your environment, you know. The stuff that you feeling at that moment or going through at that moment is for that moment. And see, I even did a letter to my younger self, and it's in the Behind the Wall Mentors magazine. Um, but basically, I was telling my 14-year-old self the things to do to prepare. Take advantage of the library. Talk to those that are qualified or successful in the area in which I want to go. You know, really start learning about money because a lot of this stuff deals with poverty and economic situations. So, you know, and understanding that it all takes time. Mature, learn from mature people, successful people. But if you want to deal with that other stuff, they got a place for you. You know what I'm saying? Either that local cemetery, if your people's even able to bury you, you know what I'm saying? Because some people can't even afford that. You know what I'm saying? Or they got that place in the federal system, the jail or the state system, if you want to go that route.
Powerful. And then I'm gonna ask one more. What advice would you give a male that is, or a female, either it could be either or, that is incarcerated and serving a long sentence? Maybe their family member can will see this and they will be able to relate the message, something just to help them get through serving a long sentence.
Your asset is your time. So the way that you productively use your time, and I'm gonna tell anybody they should reach out to you to get that copy of Do the Time. Don't let the time do you. So you can send them that PDF. But your asset is your time. Read everything that you can. You know what I'm saying? Concerning the direction that you want to go. Constructively build yourself up. Figure out the life that you want to live. Start writing everybody, advocating for yourself. See if you can attract advocates and also put together a play as to who it is that you want to become and start becoming that person and do the work to become that person and show that to other people so that they can back you. You know, the rest of that is just using that time wisely because a lot of people are not afforded the time to be able to read the books, take the classes because they out here living life trying to figure out how they going to pay the next bill. In prison, whatever bill you got is because you done created it doing the wrong stuff. The rest of it is using that time to be able to develop yourself so that you can be a more higher, well, not more higher, but a higher valued person.
And I don't usually do this, but I'm going to ask this question because we're a little over time. Um, how did this whole thing from childhood and into adulthood and everything that you have been through, how has this shaped your life and caused you to significantly change? Because you're doing some amazing things. So I just want to know the impact of going through all that you went through, and now it's shaped you into a different person. Just how?
So my background, whether it be with my mother, my grandmother's, deals with the church. And I remember my grandmother giving me these little childhood books that was like these Bible studies or Bible stories. And I always remember the story of Joseph. And even as I went to DC jail the first time and attempted to read the Bible in its entirety or being incarcerated reading that, it was like Joseph was the model because he was incarcerated. He prepared, he seen his dream. And I'm saying he ain't killed nobody. There's some other people in the Bible that did some killing, but he seen his dream. He knew what it was to prepare for that, and that was the savior for his people and his family to come. And that's one of the earlier stories in Genesis. So that was one of the things. Like reading and learning, even before I got incarceration, was powerful to me because of some of the great people that I learned. But then, like I said, Joseph's story, Booker T. Washington's story, Frederick Douglass' story, people that wrote their freedom just like I wrote mine and created not only something for themselves, but a great legacy, serving. That's what was the foundation, having that faith in God and paying attention to the word and what it said to me.
Okay. All right. So this is what we call shameless plug. Thank you so much for being open and transparent about your life experience, because we've chatted on quite a few occasions, and I love what you're doing. And you've written and published a lot of books, and you're using all the things that you went through, and you're putting it in on paper. So we call this shameless plug. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing? Any books, any events? This is your time to share it.
Well, this is what's happening. Follow me definitely on Instagram, JSRussell56. I post. I even got hired a virtual assistant to do all this posting on all these other platforms. JS Russell on YouTube, JS Russell5 on TikTok, JS. I can't even remember what it is on the
It's
Russell.
yeah, and I meant to say your stuff is
It's
scrolling through the bar.
it's going across the whatchamacallit. But look, this is what's going on. I'm writing these books not only with the poetry, but therapeutic journaling. Live from the Pen 1 and 2 is already out. Ebook and for print book. You can find them right now before the year ends with a 25 discount on Smashwords. On the other platforms, as Barnes and Noble, you have Love Locked In, which is a combination, a collection of love poems. You have Do the Time, Don't Let the Time Do You, which I'm telling you to contact us right now so you can get that free PDF, but that's also available. You have Turning Adversity to Advantage, which is a workbook that's geared towards the incarcerated population. And there's so much more work. There's April, 30 Poems in 30 Days, which was the exercise by Pen America during National Poetry Writers Month. So I'm doing all of this because I want citizens to be able to come over here, come out and be productive to make a positive impact in their community and lower the recidivism. And there's more work to be done. J.S. Russell, Writing Freedom from Within the Pen is available on ebook. I'm working on creating all of the stuff that I wrote in prison before and doing it better so it can serve better the community. So just keep following me, keep looking at the stuff that I'm doing and seeing how I can support. And anybody that needs help with their folks that's in, just holler at me or holler at Demetria. We'll connect. We'll make sure how we can do the best to make that impact.
Yep. So get your through this. Reach out to me. I will get you a free copy of the PDF. Sharing is caring. So we want to thank Jamar for just being such a testimony and a blessing. And people can really change their lives. So don't take it for granted. I know a lot of us have been through things, but Unfiltered, Unspoken is a platform for humans to share their life experience in hopes that it will connect with someone else to start the journey to healing. Before we go, Jamar, is there anything else you want to say to the audience that we may have forgotten?
Um, Nothing that I could think of offhand, but I'm gonna tell you right now, my goal is to get this work into these institutions. So, like I said, the PDF is free. You send that to whoever that you can. The rest of it is me developing these courses because, unfortunately, there's a high population of African Americans in these facilities. I know that the 13th Amendment makes slavery legal. You know, it's kind of unfortunate being in this day and time, but we don't need more slaves. We need more thinkers, more doers, more producers, more people to be in our community. So if you want what I just said, holler at me and let's figure out how we can collaborate and how we can produce that. You're muted.
I know I was just look, I was like, I'm talking again. And there you have it. Jamar, thank you for sharing your testimony on Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. I can't wait for us to collab and do more stuff in the communities with the youth. Thank you for working with the youth and just advocating for them to do better in their lives to help them change. So thank you so much for all that you're doing in the communities. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
My pleasure. And thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences. This is not over. Just another wonderful testimony. As I told you, they are all wonderful testimonies. And I hope that you will be able to connect so that you can start the journey to healing. So if you have been through some things in the wrong situation growing up, put in different situations, and it completely changed your life to do things and result of what you've seen, and you've faced time and jail, and you've been getting given a second chance at life, or you're seeking to look how you can do it. I hope that you look at Jamar's testimony and it will help you change and do some positive and wonderful things in the community. So thank you for tuning in. Peace.